Fun fact, it's Saturday night well, it's not Saturday night, technically, it's 2:20. But the video that is coming up, I actually took a look at. And there's a couple of things I just want to say on my own behalf. Number one, just because my dad gave me the belt doesn't mean I'm cool with it. It was a different time, and I was born in Moscow, Russia. I've never hit my kids. I'm not cool with it. I don't believe that it's a good way to raise kids. My wife doesn't beat our kids, to the best of my knowledge. And I'm just not interested in an argument about hurting anyone, let alone the height, weight difference and disparity. Meaning, like, if you have an adult son that really can defend himself and you want to, like, step to him and, like, let him instigate some sort of a physical conflict, and that's in an extreme situation. I'm not pro any of that. But when it comes to violence with family members, it is beyond not okay. And I say that truly because, I am not a crusader for justice when it comes to personal matters. And I say that in true form because I believe that one of the things that truly differs this channel from a lot of the other channels is that I do not do this for a profit. That does put me in a completely different protected class of creators. And please also understand that the video that's coming up, there are moments in the video where I don't finish a story, and I'm going to film the rest of that content as at the end of the video. But I'm actually going to film it at the same time and just, go. And so on that note, please also understand that some of the opinions that I have are strictly that, just my opinions. A human being in a society that is so repressed truly needs to express him or herself in a nonviolent manner. And think about this, okay? Imagine the quantity of crime that would plummet if we lived in a society where human beings who have any form of difference from the rest of us are able to express themselves. Imagine the lack of misunderstandings, violence, and general drug use. And that's another matter that I'm going to touch upon, and I'm going to finish the intro with this. I don't understand how we as a society can possibly say that both drug use as well as mental health are diseases that we want to cure and understand as a society, and then point a finger to a human being that's neither mentally ill nor a drug addict and use those very same elements to hurt that person. And the person who's not mentally ill and not a drug addict will look at these people and say, wait, what? Like, I assure you, my case is not that complicated. I'm just a dude that has ADD. Sometimes it's referred to ADHD. I am not interested in parading around a cause that I don't have even time to understand, but I have found that being fast-paced in a slow-form environment has been very advantageous to my job, and I really enjoy providing a good income for my family, and I don't understand why every single one of these videos is me testifying. For example, I cry a lot during these communications with you, the audience. It's real. So I get very sniffly. I'm not a drug user. I am more than happy to submit to a blood test if the end result is something where I get my life back. That's literally what I'm saying. I don't understand what kind of a drug addict would say that. But I put my money where my mouth is. And just because you see me sniffling doesn't mean I'm on any substances at all, actually. And one of the things I also touch upon is benzodiazepine. I want everyone to understand that's called Xanax. I have tried antidepressants and things like that. The concept of pharmacology is just too complex for me to dive into right now. It is extremely not finished as an industry, in my opinion. I believe we're in a very, very upward cycle of medicine where we really have stabilized a lot of the diseases that we can stabilize as a modern society, and really pinpoint the mid 80s as the age at which point old person should be really living to at this point. Anyone who passes away earlier, it really begs the question about health and things like that, and choices that they made. Like I said, one of the things that I'll touch upon is my dad as Mother's Day approaches, and not because of anything, but it's hard for me to find a concept of how Mother's Day and Father's Day is not celebrated at the same time. It's almost like you're asking for society to have a very high divorce rate by having two separate days. It's like, let's get ready for these people to be divorced. Why wouldn't it be Parents' Day? How do you have a child with two separate people? I truly don't understand how human beings don't understand that lobbyists for divorce lawyers are able to change calendar days for official holidays in order to have a very lucrative income. The conflict of marriage is difficult enough, but the concept of human beings being able to make a lucrative living on a conflict that is pre-existed since the dawn of time is really one of the saddest things that I've been able to experience. And on that note, I want everyone to understand, please watch till the end. You'll really learn a lesson. Hey, my name is Dan Rieses, and today's episode, we're filming right before noon, but I don't know when it'll be up. But essentially, something very, very not cool happened a couple of days ago, which really made me rethink some of the format. So Jamie's not going to be on screen for a while, and I can't really go into the details or anything like that. It's just not in the best nature of anyone to have her publicly exposed, and it really, a lot has happened in the last week that has made me truly reflect on what is my position. What am I trying to accomplish here? What is my goal? Because I've realized that the words that I say are so heavily misconstrued that even when I express myself in the kindest, most gentle nature, I'm still not able to truly recognize human beings' inability to understand this. I am not a human being that is asking for any sympathy whatsoever. I'm not reading from a piece of paper yet. But I'm not a human being that's asking for any sympathy. I'm not a human being, whatever. But to constantly be ridiculed over something that is formally recognized as a disability, without having even a chance to say, guys, I can't do certain things. I can't tolerate lies. I can't tolerate certain levels of trauma and pain. And a lot of the issue in court, and I basically want to express to everyone that if the courts don't recognize that my inability to articulate myself is heavily dependent on a series of actual factors that can easily be resolved. Like, for example, I don't react very well to being yelled at, but at the same time, one of the things that I want everyone to recognize is I am a big fan of the American democratic system. So my goal behind all of this is to make it better, not worse. So any words that I say that are misconstrued is really, really bad for me. So one thing I want everyone to hear me very clearly. If there is a single person that ever even harms another person because of this channel, and I will be very honest with you, that if it is someone that is trying to do something good, like a fan or some crazy shit like that, I don't think I'll ever film again. If it's someone that has gone after me because of this filming, I'm going to think twice, but at the same time, you got to remember that I don't actually do anything bad. Like, there are human beings out there that truly commit some really serious sex crimes. They drink too much and they violate females, and it's vice versa. But just there's a lot going on in the background, and I want to express to everyone that YouTube is not a venue to air your grievances in the middle of an investigation. If truly something happened that warrants an investigation, going on YouTube would only hurt the actual investigation process. Meaning that a human being that is guilty of a crime can easily say, well, look at how much the facts of the case have been influenced by this guy talking about it. So for me, that's also not good. So you must understand that the current rules that we're living under really prevent freedom of speech, and that's not a positive thing. And one of the things I want to express to everyone is that there is something called Daniel's Law out there. And what Daniel's Law is something that I am in favor of. I believe that human beings that are on the bench deserve an extra level of protection and safety, because there are many psychopaths out there that are not like me, that don't have the ability to articulate themselves. Because the truth of the matter is that one of the main reasons that I found in my 31 days of illegal incarceration of why the jails are so heavily overpacked and what the core of the issue is obviously communication, stigma of social issues such as repressed homosexuality, as well as the need for mental health, and ultimately a mental health evaluation prior to incarceration. And that part of the lack of the mental health evaluation truly goes to speak to the system, because there are so many resources that are thrown at issues that can easily be avoided with mental health, communication. And I'll explain to you that in my personal opinion, and this is not a data-driven conversation. ChatGPT is available to anyone. I assure you that some of the things that I do might seem like they're generated through artificial intelligence. Please understand that in reality, I'm not sure what experts are talking next people are listening to, but essentially AI is nothing more than a part of the entire cog of our society, some of the most annoying parts of our society, which is human beings like sketch artists or graphic designers who take it upon themselves to hold creative directors like myself at the mercy of their ability to produce a product. So for example, a really good sketch artist will be able to really render the images that the creative director has in his brain or her brain. But what happens is that once you have meteoric success on any level whatsoever, you yourself artificially overvalue the place that you have in the creative process. And the seeds for the creativity are done 100% by me. And that's where my likeness and images and creations are fully protected by the law. You see, everything that I say is not only true, to the best of my knowledge. I mean, I make mistakes. But I definitely back it up by a lot of data-driven things. So for example, one of the things that you must recognize is I'm about to speak on a certain subject matter that I'm not talking out of my ass. But I do want to make a very clear distinction that I'm a non-college graduate, I do not have a law degree, and I do not have the ability to ever give any legal advice. So what I do have the ability to do is express to you my perception and what I was able to experience as a pro se litigant in the event that you choose to use Pro Slay, which is a company that I created. The company has a very, very, very strong secret sauce. That secret sauce is a metaphor for code that I created in order to level out the playing field. And the reason why I say this is because my experience last week, and I want to get this out of the way because there's a few core subject matters and I don't have any notes or anything. And the reason why I say this is because under duress is when a human being truly shines. And I say this in my opinion because of my upbringing. You must understand that I was born in a country where misogyny is not a word. It is man and woman. It is a very, no one is confused. I don't say no one. There's obviously, there's a ton of people that, what I'm saying to you is that from my understanding of a society that I was never a part of. So it is the perception of my father of a society that I was never a part of. You must understand that I left Russia when I was 6.5 years old. So I never experienced anything other than my apartment, which was okay, and my summer house, which is also okay, and my grandfather was cool, and so was his brother. So my dad had a cool job and stuff. So we had a cool life. So going from that life to then my father, who really was not a motivated liar. My father's main expression of exaggeration stemmed from the pain that he was not able to have support for. My father was a very severely ill man on a physical level. He was a very difficult human being in general, and that is one of the reasons why I express to everyone is that the same reason as why I'm able to focus in on subject matters that most people don't have the ability to listen to is the same reason why I have a mental handicap. And whether or not you as the audience or human beings in my life choose to recognize it, I have realized that that's no longer my problem. Because what I can only do so far is to express to everyone that what's wrong with me is the same thing as what makes a human being in a wheelchair. That doesn't mean that person can't be a CEO of a company or be a president of the United States. It just means that person can't play basketball in the NBA 100% at this time. But what I have been able to do is truly remarkable based on the fact that I am not doing it with any type of foreign substances, AIDS. So like there's a South Park episode called Jared Has AIDS. It's hard. It's hard for me not to mention that Jared Has AIDS truly is one of the, because it's true. Jared has AIDS in the episode of South Park, and they're standing right next to him because he needs help. And when Jared needs help, he just has his AIDS. So he has no problem. And that's before that Jared Fogle was even remotely mentioned as a pedophile. So when you talk about art imitating life and life imitating art, it is virtually impossible to ignore the quantity of human beings that were outed by an entertainment program that is disguised as a television program on an adult network and an adult airtime with adult subject matters having children express themselves. The U.S. Constitution clearly states that artistic expression is protected. It is a protected speech. This content that I film is far more protected because it is informational, it is contextually accurate, and is truly for the benefit of everyone. There's very few people that can actually say, you know what, this guy Dan Reese's, his channel is not good because of XYZ. Those people are highly motivated because there is a very toxic energy out there that is truly destroying the reality of the fact that it is true. I did think that I was in a traditional marriage, and one of the things people don't really understand is that one of the main reasons why I'm really angry is because I learned the U.S. Constitution and law the old-fashioned way by studying it, because I don't come from a country that has these laws. I don't think people understand that there's a whole section of the world where democracy does not exist. There is no constitution. You have zero rights, and whatever the fuck you say means nothing. That is very important to have in the United States. And the fact that a Russian Jewish immigrant is the one on YouTube saying it makes people really revolt, since obviously Gary Vaynerchuk, 98% of every Hollywood executive, and every lawyer that has driven a Ferrari prays to a God that they have never seen, but they really worship the almighty power of the dollar. And we all know that those types of false prophets and doing that type of maneuvering will only lead to really, really negative sentiment within a really amazing country. Because I want to remind everyone that this is a Christian country, not a Muslim country and not a Jewish country. And the reason why I say this is because our principles of Anglo-American fundamental democratic rights are stemmed from Christianity. Whether or not you want to accept that, that's cool. That's your thing, because it doesn't seem like we're praying to Indian gods, feather, not red dot. And it doesn't seem like we're praying to Islamic gods in the constitutional form. And it doesn't seem like we're praying to Judaic gods. I do believe it's the same God last time I checked. But There seems to be a lot of debate about this subject matter that no one can neither prove nor disprove. So I don't know what they're debating about, since there is no actual answer until that time comes where they answer. Then the debate is over. So the concept of the debate is known as Jewish basketball, or when the check comes, you have two men who have no interest in paying the bill saying, "I'll take it." "No, let me get it." "No, let me get it." That's called Jewish basketball, and that type of euphemism is somehow looked at as a negative connotation of racism or something other than what it is, which is funny. It's just funny. Like, it's funny, guys. Lighten up. It's funny. Like, you don't need to have a TikTok legal algorithm tell you what's funny. You can decide yourself. Like, that's how bad it's gotten. That's how bad it's gotten, that you actually don't know what's funny or not. You're afraid to laugh at the wrong thing, so you laugh at nothing. Congratulations. Welcome to the future. Now, one thing I want to get back to on the subject is that when you look at the actual context of what I'm trying to say, is that Daniel's Law was created as a byproduct of truly a horrific event. And one of the things I want to express to everyone is that I have never violated Daniel's Law, and I am extremely disturbed at the origin of the entire process, because although the end result I am something of a fan of, the how it was created, why there's no explanation for the root of the issue, meaning that the sad fact is there was a tragedy that happened, and I truly believe that if a human being kills 1 billion humans and steals $1 trillion, they still do not deserve to even have a hair on their child's head affected, because that child's innocent. The child didn't do anything. And the concept that you can hurt someone's child in order to hurt them is not only inhumane, it needs to be expressly stated that no matter what this human being has done, no part of their personal life should ever be at threat or harm in a society that observes the law. And the reason why I say this is because the issue at heart, and a lot of people miss this, and it's okay. And, you know, one of the things I want to say is that it's hard for me to do my job because a big part of this message is Happy Mother's Day. And the reason why I say this is because I'm very lucky to be alive, based on the fact that when you think about the actual context of how Daniel's Law was created, the issue at hand, in my personal opinion as a man, is that the human being who committed this heinous crime had a very motivated, sinister, and incorrect agenda of male misogyny. And I believe that human beings like myself, who, believe it or not, still have a penis, and I say that as a joke because the concept of a member and the reality of having a sack and being able to stand up for yourself are just not words that are ever able to be accepted in our society anymore, because we have as a society no longer can express ourselves. So we look for theater in comedies of the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, where we had a time where we were able to express ourselves without the fear of endless criticism. Now, that being said, the misogynistic undertone has truly become the standard norm, because the visceral reaction to the pain suffered by the judge was, in my experience, and I say this with all respect because I, as a human being, could not imagine what would happen if something would happen to one of my children. So I don't have the ability to empathize, and that's where I lose the argument, because I don't have an argument. I'm on the same side as this judge. What this judge is not really able to understand is that we're all human beings, and I believe that the way I have been treated as a human being is truly a byproduct of some very, very sinister circumstances that I am very much against. And I'm here to speak on behalf of a voice of a broken society, a society that's not able to say Happy Mother's Day and I'm sorry at the same time. But I am. And the reason why I'm sorry is because what everyone needs to understand is my strained relationship from my mother doesn't stem from one fight. It stems from 30 years of arguments, abuse, neglect, whatever you want to call it. But believe it or not, I'm the child in the relationship. A human being who's a parent needs to take responsibility first. I have been taking responsibility for both of my parents' fuck-ups my entire childhood and the majority of my adult life. So, like, excuse me if on this Mother's Day I say, Mom, I hope you're doing well. For anyone that doesn't know, my actual fight with my mother started the day that I saw her pretend like my dad hit her. She knows what I'm talking about. My dad grabbed her because she was going crazy and hitting him. I saw it with my own eyes. Police came, escorted him out. She got the house. She got full custody. 1991, 2. Sad. But those memories do not define me as a man. They define me as a father because I saw in my father that he never one time harassed my mom. He never called and was like, Rita, whatever. Believe it or not, my mom married a guy that was introduced to her so he could work at the jewelry store when my father went to Russia to do business. So he basically led her to have an affair on the optical side of it. But the reality is that I personally believe that both my parents deserved a second chance, and that's one of the reasons why I believe that my mom should have a happy Mother's Day, is because a human being who's not a piece of shit, that's me right here, I can't just become a piece of shit just to fill content. And whether or not you believe me or not, I do care for my mom. I hope she lives a long, peaceful life, and I want her to wish her a happy Mother's Day. I thought that she would get a kick out of the pic. And for anyone that's wondering how the creative process works, is I have no idea, honestly. That's what the creative process is like nobody knows. But sometimes every once in a while I get into a creative spin. And what that means is a creative spin is like you lose track of where the core of the message is. So when I saw how funny I looked being superimposed into a Judge Judy style wig, because ultimately the message that I'm trying to get across stems from my brother's LinkedIn post. I know you're going to think it's really weird, but first and foremost, I've been giving this subject a lot of thought about where's the line between stalking and just looking somebody up. And the reality is there really is a line. And the line is somebody else's personal safety information as well as intent. And I truly believe intent is a core word that is overlooked in the legal process that the judge in last week, and a lot of people might misunderstand because the judge was not very nice to me, but he did his job extremely well. And given what I've seen, and one of my favorite judges is Judge Sherwood, he knows I have a special place in my heart for him because his ability to do his job supersedes his mistakes as a human. And when you get into the core context of what is a judge's job, and that is to decide how the law is applied in order to administer a fair and balanced verdict, meaning that there are clear laws and case laws that have been created. Your conflict that you have with partner XYZ or landlord ZXY, it's happened before, okay? When you're going in front of a judge, one of the things I want to tell everyone is please remove the emotional element. This human being is doing their job, whether or not you agree with them. And this is from one pro se litigant to another, not legal advice. Because I believe that there's millions of people out there that are far more qualified than me to give legal advice because they study the law and they're qualified to do this. There's a reason why it's called a bar exam. I mean, obviously, there's probably an acronym, and I haven't had a chance to look into it, but, it's a standard. It's a bar. You have to reach it. And human beings who are able to take the information, digest the knowledge, they're appointed as officers of the court for a reason. The integrity that they present in the court is supposed to be at a far higher standard. When you hear about issues with me in court, a lot of that has to do with that the standard that is needed to be reached to get a piece of paper on your wall is met by the same person that is not meeting that standard in reality. So in the context of a simulation, the person was able to say, I'm able to do this, I'm able to do this, I'm able to do this. But in reality, during the course of the trial that I experienced this week, I very much was upset at the way I was treated as a human being, but the judge did a great job. And when you get a human being like that, it's so important to not extinguish the flame because there are so many people that can misunderstand a human being's pressure, stress, personal life and say, look, guys, I assure you, if you want to hear the transcript, I don't think I'm in a legal position to really post it at this time because 18 USC 242, and I just want to expressly state that I don't think this judge did a single thing wrong. And one of the reasons why I say this is because, I mean, granted, Your Honor, I don't know if I would yell at you back or I would just yell, but how you run your court is honestly none of my business. I'm not looking to ever see you ever again. Granted, we have this other motion coming up. And the reason why I say this is because should there be an issue in my First Amendment case, I'm asking the Google and YouTube lawyers to please stand down and give me a chance to present my case. And obviously you guys could do your whatever you want on an appeal because obviously this is national implications, and should my freedom of speech and right to address my grievances publicly not be allowed, the First Amendment violation would have a $1 trillion ripple effect on our society and what content is and what content is not allowable, since the core of the issue will then create a case law which will then allow human beings that don't like human beings to have $1 billion to be sued and virtually get whatever they want in response, since it would prove that human beings who thought that they had a First Amendment protected right of freedom of speech no longer have that. So I'm asking the lawyers for Google and YouTube, thank you so much for the support, love it. It really doesn't work. My business model doesn't work when I have White and Case sitting 14 lawyers deep. It's not exactly a Daniel Reese's pro se. It's like, okay, great. Let's say Reese's loses, then Google and YouTube step in. So like, yeah, okay, fine, that happens, okay? You're right. That fucking happens. But in reality, I want everyone to understand that every single case is different, in my opinion, as a pro se litigant. And when I say that in reality to the fact that I have been on trial when I was guilty as a young man, and I've been on trial when I'm an innocent man. It is a very different case when you're actually innocent and representing yourself pro se. I do not believe that my product works on human beings that are actually either guilty or wrong in their opinion / not able to disclose 100% of their facts. The reality is, based on what I see, even though I've created a 140-page manual of how to be a self-represented pro se litigant in the county of Essex that can be used as a model throughout the entire country, the true future of our humanity and the context of relationships. Because remember, one of the things that I was able to pick up on with my limited conversations with some of the smartest, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I don't understand how we as a society can grow without pointing out the positive role models. If you ever have a chance, Officer Bennett of the Essex County Sheriff's Office is truly the benchmark standard of law enforcement. I am sorry to say this. I assure you, the guy even looks like a cop of what I want to see in a cop. And that's not to say that there's like whatever. I'm just saying the man is presented to the T. Meaning that his shoes are impeccable, his speech is impeccable, his mannerisms are impeccable. He's not interested in a conflict. He's not looking for a fight with anyone. He doesn't have an issue with anyone unless you are actually breaking the law, at which point you will be arrested. It is not that complicated. And this man very clearly expressed to me, he said, and I haven't done the research. Like I said, I can't prepare for a dozen cases and deal with the stresses of litigation as a pro se litigant and not see my children. And please remember, one of the things you must understand that this is done in one take, no rehearsal, no preparation. So when you see and want to judge me, please understand that you can. You can easily judge me for being cringy, for being a loser, for being all these things. But when I see someone doing what I'm doing, then I will be able to respond. Until I see someone that remotely resembles the content, creativity, direction, and originality of this channel, I don't have an opinion on your opinion. I understand that many people want to get into the ring, but until you're able to actually set your tone. For example, there's an attorney out there, she is a female. I believe what she is doing is highly illegal. Prior to me making any accusations, I want to get a little bit better look on what's going on. Why would I instigate the matter with additional content when I've already seen the exposed hand that I'm looking at? Makes no sense. Instigation in a public forum that's unmotivated truly changes intent. And intent, based on my interpretation of the law as a pro se litigant, is a huge part of being able to defend your case and being transparent. Because truly, the way I see the future, and Officer Bennett said to me, he said, you cannot put a random person under a restraining order. They must be in a domestic relationship with you in the county of Essex, to the best of my knowledge. And I really thought about it, and I am going to do a little bit of research. And he did say to me, he's like, look, I'm not a lawyer or anything. And we were just having a colloquial conversation. So please don't think that this is anything. I'm just trying to explain to everyone that although I might be falsely arrested many times over and over again, that doesn't mean I'm not going to stand up for human beings who are there to do their jobs, take a bullet, and really put their lives on the line for people that have no relationships with them. Like, we need to take a pause and understand that what Officer Bennett was trying to explain is that in order for you to really go in and have protection, you must have established a domestic relationship. And I agree with him. So whether or not it's fact or fiction, it's irrelevant. What he was trying to express to me, the point is not only proven, I agree with him. Because my idea of a futuristic society is that in order to get this type of work to be truly seamless and automated, I see the future of two human beings that will have to plug in their phones, and there's an automated system that spits out the actual reality of all of the conversations they've ever had, every conversation the other person has had behind the other person's backs, intent, motive, timing, everything you can imagine. Because if you want to be in a relationship in the digital world, and you want to be able to say, I am honest with my partner, you have to be able to share phone codes and truly plug your phones in if there's a domestic dispute. And if you're not willing to do that, you're just fighting an uphill battle, because in the show Upload, it is very clearly shown that human beings that engage in sex as adults, they have to do a quick video of consent on their body persons. And I'm all about that, and I'll explain to you. Because I believe that sex is a very private thing, and I believe that we do live in a hyper-litigious society, that we're walking into an age of equaling the playing field. So any Karen, anyone that you can imagine that wants to point a random finger at a person doesn't truly need to express the assets that originally required humans to fuck another person over. So I do believe that it is a better idea to have some quick express consent that's video recorded if there is some dispute or anything, especially at a young age. Why? Number one, I have never been accused of a sex crime. I've never engaged in a sex crime. I can't even imagine anything like that. I am not a human being that is... I'm just not a human being that is pro any of that stuff. And I recognize that human beings that experience pedophilia as an adult and understand the concept of mental health and that it is a disease. I'm not the kind of person that's looking to chop humans' penises off as a response to raping children, but at the same time, there must be severe accountability for human beings that expressly violate their partner's rights on a sexual level to a point where they don't have the right to privacy anymore. And I believe that the reality of being accused of something like that truly is virtually impossible to disprove without expressly releasing all of your rights to privacy and saying, look, here's who I am. Like, at what point are we going to stop accusing me of things that I never did? I mean, how much longer are you going to be interested in committing felonies of alienation and kidnapping of a minor, of a guy who has done nothing but been undiagnosed publicly with ADD, whose wife is really mean to him and just simply has been really anti-acknowledging my disabilities while heightening all the amazing things I do. And that's what professional actors have happened to them, and that's why they go crazy. Because as children, a lot of them are able to express an exuberant amount of talent and produce a massive amount of content. And then as adults, when they're not able to do the same thing, their support system simply turns around and they're not able to express that their likeness as an image of a child did not transfer as an adult. Ask Haley Joel Osment. He will explain it to you. And the sad reality is that when I needed to really say, look, the truth of the matter is, I don't believe that what is wrong with me prohibits me from doing ordinary tasks. But the question really is, what is defined by an ordinary task? Because in reality, in order for you to understand the quantity of calculations and computations that go on in my brain, you must understand that sometimes I'm not present and I don't have short-term memory. That is one of the byproducts of a life of both trauma and stress. It is not like anyone has ever helped me. My mother was anti-mental health and anti-medication. That is not a choice I ever had. By the time I became sexually sentient, I too was anti-medication. That is not a choice I ever had. Again, that is something that a child experienced based on their environment. My father, because he was severely mentally ill and undiagnosed by it, my mother was able to benefit greatly from it. She was able to replicate the same formula to me, and why I say Happy Mother's Day on YouTube to her, and very happily, gladly happy that she's alive and well. I'm not that guy. She knows I'm not that guy. Because my father, in front of my eyes, as my mother's grandmother, was dying. And my mother's grandmother, she had two jobs. She babysat me and sometimes read books to me, and the second, more important job was criticizing my father. It's just one of those things where people took every shot they could at this guy, and he walked onto traffic to stop an ambulance and bring the entire crew to save my grandma's life. And my brother knows it, my mom knows it. And like my father, he's a funny guy. He was like, we came to America first, and then it was like my mom. It was time for my mom's parents to come, and my dad. He was just a guy that it's undescribable. Believe it or not, he was original, and in today's world, it's a big deal. But he essentially was somewhat reluctant in hosting, sponsoring them, because the truth is, when my dad always said, like, they're good people. They're just, it's no good deed goes unpunished. It doesn't matter what I do. Like, it'll always be like, Alec, why'd you do this? And my dad was, believe it or not, right about that. But one of the funniest stories ever is that my Uncle Michael, who's actually a really kind, gentle soul, just has no spine. That's the only problem. But other than that, he's an amazing chess player, great dad. The world needs more people like that, truly. But when it comes to this is a very funny thing. So my Uncle Michael's like 24 years old. My grandpa, my mom, my dad, and it was my grandpa, my grandma, my mom's grandma, which is my great-grandma, and she was like 100 years old then, so I don't even know why someone would come to America and sit in a chair. And then there is my Uncle Michael, his wife and daughter Svetlana, and David Bogomolny was just born. And my dad's thing was like very simple, okay? Like he's not as dumb as he acted. He knew his wife was cheating on him. So like for him to like help this woman out who's cheating on him was like, okay, here we go. And then they were like, oh, we need a car. So he's like, he's not an idiot. He's like, all right, no problem. Give me like $1,000 or whatever, and I'll get you a car. And my Uncle Michael was in charge of picking me up to go see. They lived across the street from Temple B'nai, not B'nai anything, Temple Agudath Israel. And a Temple Agudath Israel, awesome program, really took us in when the West Orange Temple, which was religious, seemed to have yet another financial conflict with my father. You guys picking up a pattern here? So my dad is like, all right, Michael, I'll get you a car. And my dad is like a hustler, and he knew car dealers and stuff, and he was ingrained in our society. And I don't know if anyone knows, but the used car dealer market was heavily dominated by people of Eastern Europe, primarily because of both the trade and the demand for it over there. Now, that being said, the conversion rate and exchange rates and VAT and all that stuff play a big role, and you could just pick up a book or YouTube something and pretend like you know about it. Either one, no one gives a shit. Now, the reality is my dad's like, all right, family of future ex-in-laws, give me $1,000 and get your car. And back then, believe it or not, $1,000 was like, let's say like $4,000. But like, it's still a car, you know, like say like right now you want to get a car for $1,000. I would love to see what you get. And so because I went to Harrison School, I needed to get once a week to Hebrew school. So I was picked up by sometimes my grandpa did it on a bus. It was really cool. And, you know, we had a good time. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth a man who, when he died, had a shrine to me in his top drawer. I mean, we had a special relationship. He gave me my first pocket knife, and he was one of the more normal human beings in that entire family. So that goes a long way as well. And once again, I explained to everyone that my grandma and grandpa were actually divorced at one point. I swear to fucking God. And my great grandma, the same woman who my dad, he saved her life and brought her to America, would just badmouth him all day long. And she represented my grandma in the divorce. And then they all came to America together. Like, it's like me, Smuro, and my wife going on a cruise and like sharing bunk beds or something. It is the most wildest fucking story I've ever heard, knowing like what court is and what human emotions are and things like that. And like to think that like people actually don't think that that plays a role in my development is bonkers to me. Because when you have a human being like myself whose own grandparents invented a conflict, got divorced, then had their second child after they got back together after a legal separation in a country that barely even let you get married. The whole story is weird, and I didn't even believe it. I made my grandma find a photo of them in court. I don't understand how they even had a photographer there. Who's taking a photo of getting a divorce in court? It's like, here, stop for the camera. Like, take a pause from your arguing about civil rights that don't exist and smile for the camera. My poor grandpa is standing there by himself. My great grandma's like gung-ho about them separating. And like my grandfather at the end of the day was just always taking care of my grandma. He cooked for her, he cleaned for her, he never allowed her to even get off the couch. Because I come from a long line of men that are good to women. I don't even know what it's like to hurt a woman. Honestly. My dad gave us the belt once. Well, I got twice, but Mark and I got once. And we deserved it. We were mean to a girl. I learned my lesson. I don't know what the big deal is. It's not child molestation. It's just, you know, you got to learn your lesson sometimes. And Mark and I definitely fucking learned it. We're gentlemen. You know, like, say what you will about my brother's creativity. Juice is not existing anymore. But we're gentlemen because we were raised by a semi-psychotic man who truly believed in the chivalry of man as a definition of the future of humanity. So for that, I truly believe that I need to say thank you to my dad, my mom, Judge Judy, a few of the good judges that have really taught me a lot. I'm not going to really talk about too much about what happened at all in court, except for the fact that I wish Your Honor happy Mother's Day. He knows who he is. And the reason why I say this is because I tried at the end to express that maybe this person is someone I can express some of the grievances that are happening within the court, but the response was totally not at all what I had intended. So I just wanted to apologize. I think that human beings that have invented conflicts with other human beings like myself who truly respects the judge, this isn't some sort of a shtick. I believe that the advice that I was saying regarding pro se litigants and not expressing too much emotion into a judge is because within the context of a case, a judge could easily be removed. So if you spend all your time brown-nosing a judge and getting, good with this judge that gets moved over, you've just wasted a ton of resources. People don't even understand how to calculate time as a resource. They think money and end results are the only things that are important. But like, believe it or not, human beings don't understand that their lives get sucked into litigation cycles that are not only endless, they're fueled by human beings that are making millions of dollars. Publicly speaking, the last I heard, Blake Lively and Justin Baldani's legal fees cumulative was approximately $60 million. That's $60 million of two people who couldn't text message each other. I swear to fucking God, that's all that happened. It's two people that literally couldn't text message each other. They like haywired somewhere in the process of being rich, beautiful, and happy. Like no one ever said no one ever said anything bad about any one of them. They just had a conflict they couldn't resolve. It cost them $60 million. I hope they're happy. I hope they're both happy with the end results. Me personally, I will not see a movie with either one of them because I cannot get out of my head the concept of a human being. Let's say it's a 20-40 split, okay? I don't know who Justin Baldani is, and I know a lot about movies, and the reason why I say that is because maybe some of the, content that he films, I don't watch as a 43-year-old heterosexual man. Maybe, just maybe. But in general, I think that it's really scary that we live in a society of two people that couldn't just plug their phones in. Had we lived in this society, both of them would have saved a cumulative $60 million, and we as a humanity would save ourselves the arduous task of listening to this ridiculous argument of these very beautiful and successful human beings. I don't understand why one of them is saying, you know what, have a nice day, I'm going to take my money and live in Canada, go fuck yourself. Why would you ever ruin your careers publicly over displaying your inability to function as an adult? Like, I get it. Trust me. I am the fucking heavyweight champion of the world of being misunderstood via text. You have no idea. I can't even send an email out without somebody being like, oh my God, I'm so scared. What are you scared of? Me telling you committed a crime? Like, who's threatening? So the point of what I'm saying is, I think that in the light of what I've seen, I just wanted to say thank you to a judge that actually did his job, and I'm okay with being abused as long as the judge does their job, and I believe that that's a big thing that many pro se litigants really miss, is that they project their issues that they have with the adversary onto the judge who's just doing their jobs. And one of the biggest issues that pro se litigants have, especially in domestic and family matrimonial matters that are highly contested and highly emotional, is that pro se litigants do not look in the mirror before every single court appearance, email they write, or any type of thought that they have. And the reason why I say this is because I've learned a lot about myself over the course of the last 10, 11 months of a domestic conflict. And one of the things that I've learned is my development as a young adult truly was never exposed to a world where I had a chance to not be under stress, pressure, anger, and insults. And once that was released from me, I came to the realization that as long as my kids are healthy and as long as the world is spinning, the sun is shining, and I work my ass off, why wouldn't I get everything I want? Because truthfully, I'm genuinely saying this. I genuinely know I didn't do anything wrong. It is not a matter of an opinion. There comes a point where even I, as the human being who is so ruthless in his vengeance of a system that has become broken from the toxicity of a world of convenience, we have morphed into a society that judges ourselves, where we already have a system that's, hard to function. And the reason why I say to the judge that I believe he did a really great job is because the world needs more people like that. Forget about the job of a judge. The man's a leader, and leadership is at a deficit. And I believe that his skills can be transcended into politics to a point where, why wouldn't you want a guy that's president like that? That's no bullshit. Like, with all due respect to Donald Trump, I'm not really cool with the whole anger thing publicly. And I believe that the judge that I had today can easily be a lot more level-headed and idealistic in the viewpoint of the entire country. And like I said, he's young. He might be older than me, but he's got a ton of potential. You don't understand. If you go on a public space and criticize a human who has a ton of potential, how can that human being ever get better? I think he did an incredible job because of his interpretation of the law, not the way he treated me. The way he treated me is, I'm not going to comment publicly, because why would I discredit something that can be great for everyone? A human being who could be a shining example to the legal standard that is required to administer justice in the state of New Jersey, I experienced this week. I now understand what the issue was. I will need a little bit of time to gather my thoughts and express to everyone that one of the things that I want to say is that my brother did this LinkedIn post, and I ask Jamie once every 6 months or so to check up on Mark, and I don't do that in a stalking way, because LinkedIn is designed to market yourself in a professional environment, and there's no reason why I can't look at my brother's LinkedIn page, because I don't. It's not like I drop off. He's lives 50 feet from here. I don't drop off a bag of shit. I don't honk my horn. I don't harass him. Why would I do that? He's a father of 2 kids, and then I look like an asshole on top of the fact that I look like an asshole for doing nothing. So, I would never fuel a fire that doesn't exist. Meaning I could pour gasoline all over this thing. It doesn't exist. There's no flame. There's no conflict. Believe it or not, Mark understands what movie this comes from. Bobby, do you really believe that you and I have a conflict? Wait, we don't. Because there is no you and I. There is no you and I. Now, don't you just want to read that poem, Bobby? Yeah, I want to read it. And he says, just skip to the end. He goes, for a while. See, Mark, well, you need to see how I did that. Ah! Wrong gear. Now, please understand that acting, expression, communication orally via a national stage might seem like a very easy thing to do until you actually attempt it. And I say that to really get myself psyched up for what I'm about to express, because I really wanted to say that, you know, I'm going to pause, and I'll explain to you why, because this is not right. But in general, there is a really cool thing that just happened. And I'm going to express myself later when this whole thing is concluded. My kids are safe, my wife is safe, everyone is good, and the stress of my personal life is behind me, because there's a reason why human beings that are exposed to high-level government issues and resolutions to those issues are not allowed to have families, because of things like this, where the actions of my work on the Menendez case has truly rippled into my personal life, where I'm dealing with a level of corruption that is not really feasible for the majority of the American public to understand, that my children have effectively been kidnapped through the misuse of the legal system. And the reason why I say this is because I need the information that I need to be publicized via some form of a documented process. Right now, most of the actors that are involved in the crimes are pretending like what I'm saying is not true. They'll pretend like this video doesn't exist. I don't want to express that the judge did nothing wrong. Until there's actually evidence, I don't point a finger. There is a grievance that I do have with one of the judges significantly, and I'm going to pause on expressing what's going on, because that is an actual criminal investigation, and I'm kind of scratching my head on this one. But in general, everyone deserves a right to privacy, everyone deserves a right to counsel, everyone deserves a right to protection, and everyone deserves a right to be heard. So there is no accusations made by me, and a lot of the changes that you see in my demeanor are strictly from one core element, and that is the removal of toxic energy and conflict from my life. I've taken no medication whatsoever for over a week. No, I'm not over a week. It's been a couple of days where I was able to really stop taking benzodiazepine in order to express something that I don't want to talk about on camera. But essentially, I have recognized the dangers of this substance. For me, a very fast-paced individual, and what happens is, when I found myself depleted of my ability to shut myself down, the neural inhibitor of the benzodiazepine allowed me to calm down. But then, once the benzodiazepine wears off, you get back into the state of agitation. And that ripple effect of going up and down is what caused a lot of the issue. And I don't blame the medical industry. I mean, I was using the medication the way I was prescribed it. But at the same time, there are many people in the medical community that have expressed that maybe you should try stopping it. I've stopped it for 6 months, a year, and things like that. I don't struggle with addiction, so I find myself finding that the reality of the core issue of why I struggled with it was because of my environment and not the pharmacology aspect of it. And I want to remind myself that I have no time machine. So the decisions I made in the past were probably pretty good decisions, realistically speaking. And if people don't understand that human beings who take medication are not on drugs and they're not foggy-headed, they just need a little bit of assistance in order to mitigate some of the things that make them intolerable based on their surroundings. Every case is different. The last thing I'm going to do is give medical advice. I'm not even qualified to even talk about this subject matter. I talk about it in order to express myself and be an example of people that struggle with these matters. And by me talking about it, I'm hoping to be an example of people who truly struggle with both addiction as well as support systems that first get them into some form of assistance and then use that assistance against them at will. So a big thing is, partners talk about therapy and then use it against each other in convenient times. Medication is often used like that. Mental health is often used like that. That's not something I'm cool with. And that's why I'm okay with mitigating my exposure to any type of shadiness, which, believe it or not, is not very difficult for a human being whose mind is not on crime and I have a pretty good real estate portfolio. Apparently, some people don't agree with that, so we'll see about that. But in general, I worked really hard my whole life. So for someone who puts the time, dedication, effort, love, commitment into the projects that I have, it's not that it's not fair, it's just that we as a society live by a set of rules that govern everything. And Jack Black said it best. He's in Anaconda, he said, who cares about IP? Literally everybody. And the reason why is that until Jack Black identifies that the law is an important thing to human beings who live in America, we as a society will treat it arbitrarily based on the amount of money we have and how much we can pay a lawyer to tell the world that, hey, my client didn't do anything wrong because of this. And when you get into a level of perjury that is allowable by a system that is designed to forgive human beings that have a degree on the wall for lying to a court that is really appointing them to be a trustee of the truth, well then I, Daniel M. Reeses, have a huge problem with it. And on that note, I want to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day. There's a laundry list of people that I want to thank, but ultimately I do believe that my boys owe their mother a thank you. And I believe that, I have some smart boys, and I have a lot of faith in them, and I love them and miss them very, very much. And no matter what the circumstances are, my job as a father really relies on the fact that one day they might have partners, whether or not men, women, who gives a shit. They just need to show love and appreciation to their partner. How they receive the lack of love or appreciation will really be determined by how much I teach them as an adult who has gone through the arc of life. And believe it or not, I don't have a single regret about anything I did. I might have, I should have been a little bit more aggressive towards my stance on the crimes that were committed against me. But I truly believe we don't live in the type of society that will just continuously tolerate indifference to criminal violations without some form of remediation. And once that goes into effect, it's a domino effect, and you'll see how quickly people get on board and recognize, well, the law was broken and we're here to really mitigate the issues, and there is a mechanism in place, because essentially the way law enforcement has positioned themselves is, all right, well, if you have anything stolen in the United States, we're not going to do anything about it. And the reason why I say this is because it's true in my case. It's not true, it's true. And the amount of effort that a human being puts into a court system that is designed to protect them needs to be proportionate to what the protection actually is. So when you have a system that is designed to protect and obey the law, and in reality that law is skewed, manipulated in order for individuals that are on the inside of a system to benefit greatly, it truly begs the question, what is this all about? That is why I am pro-justice through the form of artificial intelligence in a hybrid form, just like the way the judge administered justice this week. It's not, and believe me, I truly don't think this guy likes me at all. I'm not looking for this guy to like me. We were not friends. I don't know. I don't think people really understand that because of the emotional element that's involved in the litigation process as a pro se litigant, because of the quantity of things you see in movies or shows. That is not how it works. It is a very binary system at the end of the day. And it revolves around the calculation of both resources, time management, and intent, motive, especially within the context of reflection. Because pro se only works if you're truly willing to submit everything that you have without hiding anything. Because if you go into a zero-sum game with hidden information, you'll be disqualified. So the most that I can take of the market is 30 to 40%. At 10%, the valuation of the company is $400 to $600 billion. I own the rights to use ChatGPT in conjunction with a branded product in lieu of the use of artificial intelligence in application to the United States court systems, also known as pro se. I hope I've been express in my communications, and please understand that the way my demeanor is because I'm in a calm environment where human beings are able to express themselves without the fear of endless criticism, critique, yelling, and inaccurate bias towards the words that are said, because the motivation behind the misunderstanding far exceeds the reality of the concept of the actuality of the truth. I hope everyone has a great Mother's Day. Hey. So this is Fidel. He's going to work. Sit, Fidel. Sit. Let's show everyone your costume. Fidel is a businessman today. He's a little tired. He's got a couple of meetings today. Nothing major. Just going to clock in. He has a 12 o'clock lunch. He's meeting a friend for drinks at 6, and then he's just winding down the day. Nothing major. Fidel? Fidel? You gonna have a nice day? Now, I just wanted to wrap up the segment by saying one of the things that I didn't get a chance to touch up on is once again, my family, the story with the ambulance really is, it happened in Russia, and I was very young. So if some of the facts are not 100% accurate, I'm sorry. You could have a, Reese's Family Historian 2.0 known as Mark/Rita, and they'll give you their interpretation of the facts as I know them. I don't embellish anything, and this is why, I'll tell you. So my uncle is like 24 years old. He's really cool. He's nice. He has 2 kids, but he's super responsible, and this is why I say Uncle Michael is a good man, and the world needs more men like this. Because at a young age, he picked me up, and I think my parents gave him like $20 or something, but I don't think it was a matter of money. It was just a matter of principle, and they're very kind-hearted. The Bogomolny family is very kind-hearted people, mainly. And the point of the story was I jumped in his car, and he got this blue, like this sky blue station wagon, and I jumped into the car, and he has this giant hole in the car. And to this day, I've never seen a car with a hole in it. And I know you might not understand how weird it is to drive. And basically, like, if you drop something, it's gone. I don't even understand. I couldn't understand how it passed the DMV inspection. And my uncle is very intelligent. And he goes, it's actually, there's some good parts about it. I go, Michael, what's good about this? He goes, well, at traffic lights, if you want to spit a hakalugi, you don't have to open your window, which causes you sometimes extreme arm pain, so you don't have to open the window. And sometimes, since there's no air circulating, because obviously the air conditioning is broken. And I'm listening, this is a 100% true story, I promise you. Why would anyone need to make up a story of anything if their childhood is filled with the funniest fucking traumatic stories of all time? So I look at Michael, and I'm like, Michael, what are you talking about? Where'd you get this car? And I said it like this, I was like, Misha, откуда это? Что случилось? He goes to me, I'm like, I said, what is this? He goes, ты знаешь, твой отец. У него искренне хорошее желание, но иногда он просто, знаешь, там не получается, и мы думали, что мы получим целую машину за $1000. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I forgot most people don't speak Russian. So, look, a lot of people don't really understand that the core of humor stems from a stressful time. The funniest jokes are people in pain. And just because I've used my form of pain and being able to express myself via this public forum does not necessarily mean that I find the subject matter of being separated from my children to be funny. My Uncle Michael was never separated from his children, so he was able to flourish as a father. I was constantly under the threat of what is going on right now if I didn't behave. And I didn't even understand what that meant most of the time, since I don't do anything bad. I risk my life to help people all the time. And nobody's even done anything normal to me, let alone the amazing things I've done my entire life to everyone I've met. I've just given up. It's not that I'm actually a bad person, it's just that, look, I'll give you an example, okay? So my point was, then I go to my dad, because I do like my grandpa and Uncle Michael, and I was like, Pop, что там случилось с машиной, дыркой? And that means like, Dad, what's up with the car? And if you know me as a young man, you know that I was not only inquisitive, I also wasn't interested in like injustices, and I liked my family to be together. as an adult, looking back at my mother and father's toxic marriage, I do believe it's in the best interest for them to have separated, because I do believe that they were able to find a better life for themselves afterwards. Had I seen them deteriorate completely, I would have a different viewpoint. But at the time, my brother didn't really care about my parents' union, but mainly because I liked them and I had really fond memories and I have a really good memory. I didn't want them to get divorced. And it was kind of a selfish perspective, so it affected me a lot. But it also taught me a lot about life and how short it is. And one of the things I never understood about either one of my parents was their inability to calculate time. They both were strangely guilty of this weird imbalance. And I say that because, to me, time with my kids is very precious, and their safety is also very precious. And when it comes to knowing some of the elements that are involved, I feel that if I'm able to give up and give into the current, and I say this not in the fact that I will ever give up fighting for my kids, because I think that the concept of me being separated from them is completely insane, let alone the context on the terms of how it's been done in full broad daylight, as if there's like some invented conflict. And it's sad. It's sad because as a form of expression, I use YouTube to film some of the direct content and the words that are on my mind. And then when it comes to some of the expressions that I have that I want my children to take a look at a little bit more further, I'm able to put myself on Instagram, where I would like to just expressly state that if you see any images, likenesses of anything, I am a human being. I know this is very hard for some people to believe that they own my likeness and my words and can dictate what I say and I do not say, but none of that is true. And I believe that one of my biggest issues of anger stemmed from the fact that I wasn't able to express myself and say, hey, I just want everyone to be happy. I'm a very eccentric human being, and I am very loyal and protective. And please don't misunderstand the fact that I have a knife collection to a human being who has used knives to hurt people. I've never done that in my life. I never understood the concept of how owning a knife can correlate to hurting a human with a knife, because almost every human on earth that has a civilized kitchen owns a deadly weapon in their kitchen drawer. It is literally identical. I don't understand people who believe that because you have a pocket knife, you are more dangerous than a human being who has a kitchen knife. I don't understand how they're any different. If the intent is to hurt, that's the whole point of this. In my experience, the majority of people who are knife collectors do not use those knives to hurt people. That's just my experience. I haven't done the research. I'm not in law enforcement. I also want to say that my experience is really personable. I love my knife collection, and I don't have it. Like the police department have it. And I think it's really fucked up, because I've won almost every single case, and the last one is a First Amendment nonviolent matter. And like none of that gives anyone the right to own anyone else's property or steal it. And I'm not really sure about how I'm supposed to react to it. Am I supposed to be angry and say, I think that what you guys are doing is constitutionally illegal, it's immoral, it's wrong, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Am I supposed to say, I'm going to let the wheels of justice spin and just sit here and deteriorate and grow old as everyone collects their money, doesn't give a fuck about me, and I lose the precious years of my children's life? So you have to understand that when you're dealing with a lose-lose situation in a legal context, there are intermediaries at very high levels that will surely not be able to be undermined once they're able to step in. But it's a all or nothing process. I have no interest to hurt anyone at any time, so I only have the legal recourse. And when it comes to the legal recourse, the ramifications of the legal recourse will cause some people to be a threat to me and my safety for the rest of my life. Because people that are in a position of arbitrary power, like law enforcement, who find themselves to be terminated, suspended, or lose their livelihoods all in together, find themselves resetting their life in their mid-40s. And it's a very difficult process to mentally really take on when your entire career is justified by one abuse of power case, a human being who stood up for himself. And arbitrarily speaking, that human being is actually very dangerous because they have a reason to hurt me or my family. So for me to be able to press the button I have to really be able to say, look, I've exhausted all efforts, and once these people go to jail, I just have to move and get out of a public light where people know exactly where I am, and that's it. And it is what it is, and I already see it coming, and it's not a matter of me doing anything wrong. It's just I can't have a bunch of psychopaths who believe that their paycheck and payday ended because I couldn't handle being mentally tortured by separation of my children. These are my boys. You know, I saw a man this week get extremely impassionate about his children to a point where I was almost thrown in jail when I was trying to express that I haven't seen my kids. The way I might have said it, like, I can have a conversation about it. I'm not, but it's not going to be on YouTube. But what I will say is that if that human being reacted like that, I gotta be transparent with you. I feel that my behavior in the courtroom has been more than justifiable. And I think that that's really one of the things that why I appreciate what this man has done, the judge, is because I believe that his interpretation of the law was very fair, and I believe that his reaction was appropriate if you feel that you're threatened in some way. I mean, I'm more than happy to have a conversation and say, Your Honor, it's not at all what I meant. Like I please, like I apologize again, but it's very easy to get angry and misconstrue words. And what I want to remind everyone, if that human being reacted like that to simply a misunderstanding of my words, who I have no power of any kind, how will that person react if you take away their multi-million-dollar home that they spent 30 years building and two beautiful boys that they have legal right to? And then, you know, coupled on top of that, I find myself growing mentally, physically, emotionally, all types of ways. So I look at the situation as a positive. If I spin this into a positive, I then am looked at as some sort of an arbitrary psychopath. If I don't spin this into a positive, then I just lose precious days of my life festering on something that I have no control over. And that is why my father said, Daniel, look, it cost me like $200 to go to this auction. The car cost 800 and something bucks. I lost $100 and something. Your uncle could go sell this car, buy himself whatever he wants. Any questions? I said, no, Dad, you're right. That's it. And my Uncle Michael's like, well, you know, we think my mom's like, oh, he paid $500 for you. Maybe he didn't do any of that stuff. Nobody wants to do $300. Like, that's not my dad's style. He's not like petty like that. He's like weird petty about weird things like hammers and shit. But in general, he was a kind, generous man. And anyone who doesn't really appreciate all the good that he did without anyone ever saying thank you is just a long line of human beings that take advantage of men like me and my dad, my grandpa, and that's just the way of the world. You know, truly, the strong leaders are designed to take on the weight of the world, or else we do not have change, because the meek will not inherit the earth if there is no earth to inherit. And that's why my name is Daniel M. Reeses, and your name is either a good human being or a piece of shit. But I don't know who you are. I do not speak to an audience. I speak to a camera. That camera then translates to some satellites and servers and relays and all that stuff. And the way you see that image is all in your brain. There's nowhere else that image is displayed, I assure you. There's a monitor, there's a screen. That happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying the actual context of what I say, that happens in your brain. I hope that everyone does not misunderstand their own brains and understands that I am a kind, loving human being. My message is peaceful communication, and at no time do I advocate violence of any type. So misconstruing my words is one of the red flags that I noticed amongst the enemies that I never knew I even had until people were resistant in my simple quest to be a father. I mean, you got to understand that what I'm asking for is not some sort of a ransom as the man. There is a whole jail of human beings that do not want to take responsibility. At this time, I'm required to pay $18,000 a month for a home I'm not allowed to be in, that I own, and children that I am not allowed to see for some reason. And I got to be honest with you, none of this is legal. And when it comes to advocating on behalf of the law, every human being who believes that they are the victim of serious crime has an absolute right under the 4th, I believe, Amendment to speak up about this. I think there's like a Sixth Amendment element that ties into a 14th Amendment. And I'm not a constitutional attorney. There's actual human beings that are absolute experts in this subject matter. That's not who I am. I'm a pro se litigant who has a YouTube channel about some of the sensational matters that have occurred in my life so that I don't have a headache every time I explain to you, hi, my name is Dan Rhesus. This is what I do. It is not easy being a human being that extremely genuine in a world of lies. I assure you that there is no world where I have any intent to hurt anyone, let alone human beings who are in any way intertwined with any memories of my past, present, or future. So the motivation behind this entire fabricated set of circumstances is mind-boggling. And maybe I've had a hard time expressing myself, but I assure you, in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever it takes, I will find a more coherent voice. And when that time comes, I don't recommend anyone to be a part of the other side of the curtain. Why? Because in my personal opinion, if I were a person who had committed a crime against a human being who is standing up for their rights, eventually I will be brought to justice, and it would not be in my best interest to prolong the process. But I don't do anything illegal, so this video right now, as I think about it, is actually the first time I thought about it. Because my entire message is I'm being mislabeled, and I do believe that there are dudes that are really fucked up, and I think there's women that are fucked up, and all that is fucked up. But I'm just not one of them. I am really eccentric, misunderstood, and I toe the line of the Constitution and freedom of speech because there are human beings that are interested in silencing me. Not because I'm not saying the truth or I'm hurting anyone, but because the truth hurts. Not as much as jumping on a bicycle without a seat, but it does. And not that I've ever jumped on a bicycle without a seat, but I love the movie The Naked Gun. And knowing that O.J. Simpson is in The Naked Gun as a comedic element truly makes The Naked Gun a lot more transcendable throughout time, because the jokes are okay, they're pretty good. The Zucker brothers are pretty good. I like the jokes the same way the first time in Airplane. But like I said, when you're not living in a time of digital media space on demand, it's not difficult to imagine a world where comedy in that type of original format wants to be seen and replicated over and over again. I respect it. I love Hot Shots. I love it all. Now, that being said, let me wrap this segment up with my brother, Mark Rhesus, in case you're wondering what his last name is. And Mark is not a bad guy. I don't want anyone to misunderstand this. My brother and I have known each other. I've known Mark for 43 years. And he has known me for 43 years because I'm 43 years old. You see, my brother is 4.5 years older than me. We have the same parents. He is, as Borat says, a chocolate man. But no, seriously, my brother's just dark skinned. And his friends called him the Mexican in high school, which transferred his name from Mark to Marcos. And ironically enough, there's a truth element in this where it's not comedic. And my brother was like #1 in the state in non-native Spanish speakers, also known as Spanish Mark Rhesus. And that's a reference to a Reno 911 episode where Oscar from The Office plays Spanish Mike Alvarez. And Fidel, who is in the segment that you just watched, truly is one of the better nicknames we've had for him was Michael Wirtz, the short-term closer for the Chicago Cubs. Strange phenom. Rooted story has to do with me in France. And then we also... People don't know how to pace themselves. Not paste themselves like copy and paste, but like pace, P-A-C-E. The English language makes no sense to me, and I learned it as like a semi-adult. I was already helping most of the shit in my parents' lives. And my beef with this whole thing of why the root of the issue stems from the lack of originality is because my brother is a smart guy. He's not a dumb guy. And this LinkedIn post truly is one of the most cringiest things, and I got so upset at it. I don't really have the words yet to talk about it because in the context of the LinkedIn post, my brother thinks Tom Rogers, who's like the biggest name in his life, and the reality is he had these two great bosses, the two Allens, Alan Schulman and Alan Feldenkrais. Googled them. They're like brilliant media guys. They're originally both from Future Brand. Future Brand, and before that it was, Brand New World, and before there was Future Brand, which is an IPG company. And these guys were just really good to my brother. And he had other people that were really good to him and things like that. I mean, it would be nice if my brother thanked me for the fact that he literally started talking about the content that this entire channel is about. And I don't mind that because my brother, like, who's to say that he didn't inspire me and things like that? Let him shine. I do believe that. But be yourself, Mark. Give credit. Do a quote. The quote that I say is from everyone. It's from Grosse Point Blank. My brother and I loved it. My brother and I one time ran into Alan Arkin on an airport. And Mark was, like, so slow, and we could have just, like, met him, whatever, this matter. He wasn't like feeling well. We were like coming back from Brazil. That's a great story also. And that's the whole point of all of this is like I was checking in and seeing like what's Mark up to. I think he's got really beautiful boys. He's got a good thing going on. Sei gesund, all the best, Mark. But please consider changing that and maybe thanking your parents. You know, like, how would we have come to America if it wasn't for mom and dad? How would you be born? Like, does Tom Rogers really have anything to do with your career arc? Because, look, think about it like this, Mark. I don't know if Tom Rogers invented TiVo. I don't think he invented TiVo. So being a celebrity CEO and riding on the backs of a has-been invention, I don't know if you really want that as the benchmark standard for how you represent your career. Because truthfully, other than collecting a really big paycheck and completely sinking millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of investor revenue, what else is Tom Rogers truly known for? Because I will dive into some deep research and find out what role he played and what position he was in when TiVo collapsed. Because the last time I checked, I haven't been able to buy a TiVo or plug it into a non-existent socket in my TV. So, I'm sorry, HDMI, I have one of those, don't worry. It's still some technology from 2004 lingering around. Nothing even works in this fucking place, and I probably wouldn't be able to get a TiVo to work at this point. The point of all of this is that I'm sure the brand exists, I'm sure the company exists, and I applaud anyone who doesn't understand their phone has more capability than any TiVo ever produced in the history of TiVo. But the reality is when you're pumping dumping something that is transitionary and transient technology, while at the same time having your pulse on the zeitgeist of the future, you owe it to yourself to say, my name is Mark Rhesus, and I have an original idea. My original idea I told to my brother 20 years ago, and that is this. There are a lot of companies out there that will start the streaming process, and eventually, just like cable, and this is from a conversation Mark and I had, he said the original cable services all came in different channels, but the cable companies, because they were piping in the cable, they started bundling everything together. So by the time you and I were in the 90s, and we were big movie fans, and it makes a lot of sense. And right now, people have a Hulu bill and Fox or Netflix and HBO and Apple TV and Amazon. And Mark's concept of the bundle is really his concept. It's not my concept. This is what Mark Rhesus truly is should be known for. I mean, it's his concept. And we had a conversation, and maybe I added a lot to it and stuff like that. But I want him to have something that's original. And I think that like regurgitating versions of what you hear on YouTube is not really who Mark is. And I think that a lot of people don't know this about Mark. Like, Mark could swim an entire length of a Olympic-sized swimming pool underneath water. He's a great runner. I don't know if reading is an actual skill, but he's a great reader. And it was when we were kids, and he's had a hard time growing out of it. But the point of all this is that a human being really needs to display who they are to themselves. So when I, as his brother, say, Jesus, Marek, откуда это растет, если папа это все смотрел, он был в ужасе, Потому что, знаешь, Алика два варианта, вперед или назад, нету остановиться. И подумай про эту ситуацию. Я остановился и подумал про это все. И честно, искренне я говорю, Марик, это... У меня слов нет. I truly, I have no words to describe the frustration that I have from a talented young man such as Mark Reese's displaying a complete and utter lack of appreciation for the true heroes that helped him along the way and naming a completely dead weight on the backs of young men like him. And I believe that the real question is, you know, there's something in game theory called the subway test. And the subway test, I don't really talk about too much, but I'll tell you guys what it is. The subway test revolves around the concept of if you were in a subway all by yourself and there was a human being that was about to kill either you or your friend, would you step in and try to save your friend? And would your friend step in and try to save your life? You see, I'm going through a point in my life where I definitely know that nobody would save me. So I don't have an ability to really consider going down the subway with anyone at this time that I don't believe would save me just like I would save them, because I would save anyone. I don't understand what a normal human being wouldn't, but the way our society has distanced ourselves from one another, it's scary for someone like myself who finds himself to be caring too much. And when it gets to that point, it's best for human beings to take a step back and really reflect on what's going on. At what point are you hurting yourself by trying to express yourself in a world who doesn't give a shit about you? And that's one of the things that my brother really showed me as a character flaw that I just couldn't really be a part of, is how little he cared about our dynamic and how much I cared about it. And even to this day, the inability to recognize what role I played in paying the rent or helping him in, I don't know, his job sometimes. And Mark didn't really help me in my job. I know that. As a matter of fact, you know, I don't have anything bad to say, but I do want my brother to one day snap out of it, because, you know, I don't know, that post kind of read to me like Warner Brothers couldn't really exist without Mark or something, or like TiVo, or I gotta be honest with everyone over here. I just wanted to tell you guys the rest of the story. I'm not really too interested in spending the rest of the time talking about a brother I don't have a relationship with, but I do believe that if human beings were able to express themselves a little bit better, they really would have no conflicts. There really is no reason why two grown men should not speak to each other because of something that happened in the past and their inability to communicate. I'm here, I'm ready to talk at any time. You can come in, do what you gotta do. You know, we have a routine, Mark. I just don't have the ability to really stomach the amount of bullshit that is coming out from a guy who's really smart, talented, and definitely can produce and create a lot more than what I saw there. So if for anything else, this is me showing you respect. I know you could do a lot more. It's not just the bags and the bread, Mark. You're an amazing baker.